other like kat UT you kena or camping overnight?
Yes. That was in Stagmont Camp, the School of Signal. So I went to Stagmont Camp after BMT. And you know how they do guard duty and prowling? And Stagmont Camp is not such a big camp. So how slow does it take to walk one round, you know? So of course, you know, nowadays maybe they got the better way to monitor the prowlers, but in the past, just go and sign some logbook, right? So you walk quickly and sign everything, then you can go and take a nap. So we found this corner to nap. It's in this building we call lecture block. So we sleep on the second floor at the staircase landing. We already dozed off, and I heard this sound of kids playing and somebody dropping a bag of marbles. So if you can imagine a bag of marbles like all over the floor. And I heard this kid talking to somebody else, so probably like an old lady or something. He say, 一个还没有睡觉嘞. And then I grabbed my fellow prowler. I was like, hey, let's go.
I really don't feel good. This
You're getting a
Is anyone here? What did you find?
You are listening to Supernatural Confessions.
When did I realize that I could see this kind of stuff? So I remember I was in Nanyang kindergarten. So I used to go to my grandma's house, and they used to stay at this condo, still around, called Mimosa Park in Seletar. And I was playing at the playground, and I saw two big feet in my line of sight. So if you can imagine digging the sand, and you see like in front of your eyes, two huge feet, and the feet color, not our human skin tone color, it's like grayish. So I looked up and I saw this huge tall guy, you know, with like a cloak of sorts. I couldn't make out his face, so I like froze. I looked the other way and I just walked out of the playground, and I went home. So when I went home, straight away, super diarrhea, you know, and then fever the next day for a couple of days. I had this experience, but I kept it to myself. I didn't tell anybody because I think my mother is very naggy, you know. So it's like if you tell her like, "Wow, I saw something. Wow, nag. You shouldn't have done this. You should do that. You should do." I was like, "Oh my god!" So I keep it to myself. Even at a young age, I know already. Better don't say, you know. Just keep it to yourself. And my father is one of those type of people, right? Everything is in your mind. Everything is in your mind. You know, so he's a mind over matter kind of guy because he runs marathon, right? So everything is in your mind. Whatever. Okay, fine. So I also don't tell him. But years later, one of my aunties told me about another cousin who had a similar experience about this big feet ghost thing in the same playground, and he came back, and then my auntie's words was 老青晒, you know. So I guess, you know, diarrhea for, you know, but I had the experience and I kept it to myself, and you know, that was in Mimosa Park.
Okay, you see, you can't remember the face, but the figure, the clothes, is that no shoes?
No shoes. Gray toes.
Yeah.
Right?
Like an ogre.
No, it's like a tall ogre. I would think it's like, you know, quite chubby, right? But this is
tall and lanky. Do you feel at any point in time that you were in danger, or this thing was just there as a visiting entity?
I didn't feel. I didn't have. I mean, maybe I'm too young to know, but I definitely had that flight or flight response, and I didn't, you know, I didn't want to look or pursue it any further. And
you didn't stand there like check it out.
Yeah, and you know, ask like, hey, got 4D. I mean, too young. So.
Okay, so that was your very first experience.
That was my first experience. Okay. Roll forward a few years, so I was in primary 3. At the time, we were also living in Mimosa Park in Seletar, and my parents bought a new house. So they bought a landed house also in Seletar. That was when I was in primary 3, so mid-80s. When my father brought us to see the house, you know, of course he's very excited, you know. So he said, hey guys, this is going to be our new house. So I went in, I was looking around, I said, wow, this place so dingy, why are you going to buy this kind of house, you know. So the thing that struck or very standing out thing was that house had 4 big mango trees around the house, and some of the trees were taller than the house, so you can imagine the garden, no sunlight, very like dingy looking. I was like looking around, went to the kitchen, and then he was talking, oh, this is kitchen, this is dining, this is where, go upstairs, which room do you all want, this and that. So whilst he was walking around, you know, very excited, opening the doors and windows, I was in the kitchen, and I saw this old lady standing in the corner, you know. So at the time, I was thinking, it's like, I thought my dad bought a new house, right? Then who is this old lady standing in the corner? I chose not to interact with her, so I looked down and, okay, U-turn, went out, and I kept this to myself. So even up to today, if my parents don't watch this video, right, they wouldn't know.
When you saw the old lady there, was she translucent?
Nope.
She looked exactly like a human being.
Yeah, okay, so one thing that I learned, but only recently, if you feel that something is not right, you should check out the person, you know, up and down, and make sure they have either a head or they have legs. Or but this old lady, I didn't look up and down. I was probably more stunned because like, I thought you said this is a new house, or we bought this house, so who is this lady in the house? So I probably saw 3/4 way, but I didn't see all the way to
Was
the
her
bottom.
back facing you?
No, looking
She's looking
at me, and I chose not. I saw her,
But you didn't look her in the eye lah.
yeah, and I chose not to interact, and I looked down and U-turn, went out.
And obviously the woman wasn't there because your parents didn't see anyone there.
Exactly. So, but somehow I think this lady probably, you know, like when you buy a second-hand house, the previous owner, they probably had a mother or something, and then, you know, they have the wake inside the house. So I guess maybe she was there to check out, like, you know, who are these people in my house, you know. That house, even to today, right, doesn't give me a good vibe. Like, my parents still living in the house, but, you know, I don't, but they still live in the house. But when I'm there, and I'm upstairs, and it's in the middle of the night, and I need to come downstairs in total darkness, I feel very uncomfortable, you know. So much so that if I don't have to go downstairs, I will wait till the next morning. So, roll forward a few years. No, not a year. Maybe not primary 3, probably a year. Primary 4 or primary 5. We've already moved in for a few years, and I had gotten sick and super high fever, you know. So I was sleeping on my bed, and I heard this person talking, you know. 过来, 过来. So I opened my eyes and saw in the corner of my bedroom. So my bed is on this side, and in the corner over there, there was this old lady beckoning to me, and I was like, 过来, 过来. So I was already feeling miserable. I was like, wow, headache, fever, my nose is blocked, and then still 过来, 过来. Then I was thinking, for what? I ignored and then took the blanket and cover, you know. And then later in the day, probably a few hours later, I like, okay, enough, old lady is not there anymore. So it's getting hot under the blanket, so open up the blanket. And then there's an old man in the corner. He didn't say anything, but you can, you know, it's the typical coffee shop uncle, the white t-shirt, you know, those kind, he had white hair. He was standing in the same corner, and he was also beckoning, you know. but he didn't say anything. But his hand was like this. So I didn't say it out, but I was thinking in my head, right? It's like, headache, fever, sick, don't disturb me. And then later on, my mom came in, and then she, to give me some water or whatever, right? So I asked her, I was, half in the daze, I guess, because the fever, so uncomfortable. I said, can you tell those people in the corner to just shut up? I'm trying to sleep, It's like, don't disturb me. She didn't say anything. She just, and then walked out. And then she came into the room and splashing holy water everywhere and Liam King rosary, And then she told me, okay, we are going to see the doctor. And then when we went to the clinic, she told me, you sit here first, wait outside. So we were in the waiting room upstairs. Then I was thinking, go see doctor. What? I'm so uncomfortable. Can we just see the doctor and take the medicine and over and done with? So my mom went to talk to this doctor. I don't know what they talked for, about probably 20 minutes. I was waiting outside. And later on, the doctor said, okay, come in. And then just temperature, stethoscope, usual thing, 5 minutes. Okay, bye, can go home already. It was only probably a month later when one of my cousins asked me, your mom said you saw ghosts, ah? So nobody told me anything, nobody, So I guess that my mom was discussing with the doctor. It's like, and maybe they are the same religion, I don't know.
So you saw the two entities, it was in the afternoon, broad daylight?
Broad daylight in the afternoon, curtains open, but not together, one at a time, one after each other. So it's the lady first, old lady, and then...
Did you figure what they wanted to show you, or they wanted to take you away?
Well, if you, years late, like now, if I think back to, the urban legends, they say like if you follow the old lady or you follow the old man, probably you'll be dead lah.
Yeah.
Right?
Take your spirit away.
Exactly. So I'm still here. So lucky I didn't follow them. Okay, we roll forward a bit more. BMT story.
Ah,
When I went to army, it was in 2000 in Tekong BMT. And when I went in or enlisted time, I was already so-called mature age enlistee. Because I already had my degree from overseas, and then only after studying and then I enlisted, right? Because they have this rule, if you can get in university before you're 18 years old or something, they let you study before enlisting. So I came back in 1999 and spent 1 year waiting for them to call me up. My buddy, if you can imagine Kung Fu Panda, right, that kind of physique, and tua jia, I'm not tua jia, I'm quite skinny, right? So he's like Kung Fu Panda. This guy was next to me, next bed, and in VMT they call me Kun Xin. So when I go to sleep, I find that I can knock out quite quickly. Close my eyes, just exhale a few times, and I'm okay. Halfway sleeping, I think it's probably like early in the morning when it's dark already, like 2 a.m. that kind of time. So I could hear some commotion, So I didn't wake up yet, But when you are at the point where you're not really asleep and not really awake, somewhere in the middle there, I heard somebody telling me, "起来, and then I heard a commotion, like somebody is using a pillow to whack somebody. So it's like boom, bam, boom, and then at the same time I keep on hearing, 起来. So I didn't say anything, but I responded in my head, 卖差啦, what the kun ah. That voice kept saying, 起来, got more and more aggressive, want me to wake up, So suddenly, he just said, 起来! And then I woke up, and when I sat up, that Kung Fu Panda guy also was awake. It's like everywhere is dark, everybody is sleeping in the bunk, and he was sweating. I look at him and he's like, huh? What happened? Then he said, no, nothing. I said, sure. I heard somebody ask me to wake up, Then who is that? He said, nobody. Then said, he said, never mind. Go and sleep. Next morning, went for breakfast, this and that. And then he got sick, then he went medical center. So I didn't see him till the next book-in. And then on the book-in, he brought, and he at night, before going to sleep, he brought from home a crucifix so big, you know, like when they have church service, that gold crucifix, and he put it on the shoe cabinet in front of his bed, you know. And it was like only years later where I found out that in the middle of the night somebody's using a pillow and whack him until he woke up, you know. And when he woke up, that was the same time that I heard that person killai, and I woke up also. So after that incident, then he disappeared, it was out of course, and then I didn't see him anymore in BMT. And you know, well, blessing in disguise, because later on when they reshuffle our bodies, then my body was the same size as me. Otherwise, every time I do pull up, it's like, wow, you train your brain, carry it, and then he's squealing there doing pull up, and then he's like, wow, so tuacia, and then I expect me to go in. So it's like double training for me. It's like, oh please. And he's tall, he's like maybe a head taller than me. He's like 6 foot something, and then he's like 90 kilos or whatever it is. So imagine if I have to go and push his backside to climb over the wall and all this, like, oh my god, can you pair up somebody with the similar size or not?
I really don't feel good. Like, getting a
Is anyone here? What did you find?
You are listening to Supernatural Confessions.